Happy Tuesday, everybody. Surprise. It's a bonus episode here at Graham Lincoln Mac Lane. This is our podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Graham Lincoln Mac Lane. We had to do it, guys, because we're not people that are going to put out like an hour and a half episode. So we just had to split these up. And this is going to be your SMU episode of the week. We're going to have a Pitt episode coming out tomorrow on Wednesday to really bring that game together. And we'll talk more the actual X's and O's of the game on Wednesday's episode. We're also going to have a Pitt player on, so stay tuned. But today, it's all about SMU Mac. We have head coach Rhett Lashlee, who dives into the Duke game, really breaks down the blocked field goal. I thought that was so interesting. And then we have Bill Armstrong and Billy Embody. These two know everything about SMU. Billy Embody is on the Pony Express, the On3 site for SMU. They do a great job there covering it. He has podcasts. He has all this stuff on their website, YouTube, all that. And then Bill Armstrong and Billy do the Walking Stong podcast. Mac, you have hung out with these guys. You've hung out with Bill. Yeah. Bill is a character. I really enjoyed talking to him. Yeah. So tell us more about why you wanted to get Bill and Billy on.
Well, here's the deal. Number one, just because this episode, it's going to be a big one. And because of this game, I mean, the magnitude, which we're going to be walking into on Saturday is massive. And it's playoff football. It's win or you're out, survive in advance type of thing. And so we just felt like we got to blow it up. We got to make it a big deal. And, I'm going through and I'm thinking, we can get this player, we can get that player. And I said, no. We got to get the boss hog himself, Bill Armstrong. He's a great dude, and he cares. He loves it. I mean, literally has given so much to SMU, and he's just a great dude, and he has an awesome perspective. So I knew there would be a day that would come that we could get him on here and get that perspective. And honestly, maybe we do something else later just based on after the season through all of it, like the investments and the vision and the building these things. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. So we had to get him on. And then Billy Embody, friend of the show, been on with us before, just has a great pulse on kind of what's going on. And I thought maybe the head coach would be okay too. Maybe he knows a thing or two about these guys. So loaded episode. I do want to say this before we jump into it, just about how excited I am to be at SMU, to be in Dallas. I know a couple of people are disappointed. You wanted game day, all this and that. Let me just promise you this. I care about you way more than game day does, and we're going to bring it. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you show up. I hope it's packed. Show them why game day should have went there, okay? Let's see everybody there. Let's make it a big-time party. We're going to have some fun, and so I cannot wait for that. Really looking forward to it. But without further ado, let's get to the head coach himself, Coach Rhett Lashlee. Coach Lashley, great to see you again, brother. I think we're going to start calling you guys the cardiac Mustangs or cardiac ponies, one of the two, because I'm not sure how you're doing. I'm still a wreck after that game, but you got it done. You found a way. Great to see you, brother. Thanks for joining us.
And I appreciate you. Yeah, that's one of those games that age you in doggy years. And it's funny, I was getting messages from friends after the game saying, man, you stayed so calm. And I was like, wow, really? Inside, it was not a good feeling in the fourth quarter and overtime, but just good teams find a way to win, and our guys found a way to do it.
Yeah, you guys did. That game was crazy. I know you know the stats, that you're the second team since the turn of the century to lose the turnover margin that way and win. Marshall back.
Yeah, we had less than a 1% chance of winning according to the history, so that's always
impressive. You're saying there's a chance, baby. You're saying there's a chance.
Maybe tells us we're in the middle of a pretty special season. But overall, when you look at just the grit from your guys, things not going the way you wanted to, the crazy fumbles. Mac and I were talking, it almost reminded us of the Clemson game at Duke last year, where the fumbles, you're just like, how is this happening? And of course, the game gets closer for that reason. But you guys blocked that kick at the end. And I heard you in your post-game press conference saying we had worked on that. Credit to your special team coaches for scheming that up. Can you walk us through, maybe tell us what you can about that scenario and then your reaction when it worked?
So really, Coach Tibbs is our D-line coach, and he had gotten with Coach Horney, who's our senior special teams analyst, a week or two ago, and just said, some guys have done that in the NFL lately, and it's legal as long as you don't put your hands on the lineman to launch yourself. And Duke is one of the few. I think Florida State did too. Their philosophy on field goal is to bury their head down, which helps them not get knocked back. Like a lot of people, you see guys getting ran over and just trying to kind of take one for the team. on PAT field goal. Well, they don't get knocked back, but they duck their head and they actually give you the opportunity to jump over them. And so credit to them for figuring that out. And we did work it. It's kind of one of those you don't know you're going to need it till you need it deals. And even talked to the officials ahead of the game to make sure and cleared it with them it was legal, because the last thing you want to do is do something, catch them off guard. They throw a flag. And so credit to them for the idea. And then, once we turned it over again and gave them the ball, we only had one timeout. There was zero I could do to keep them from kicking the walk-off field goal. Decided to hold the timeout, really not as much to ice him. I mean, kind of, but really just to go out there with a different look, call timeout, and then get our guys reminded on how we're going to execute it, and remind the officials, hey, we're about to do this and it's legal and you've okayed it as long as we execute it. And but then for them to do it, and if you watch it back, it's an incredible feat for Farai, that big old defensive end, to be able to do that. But what's most incredible is as soon as he hit the ground, how quickly he got back up, because as he hits the ground, the kicker's leg is meeting the ball almost, and he got back up in time to block it. So just incredible job by our guys, and then for them to execute it.
Yeah. To me, Coach, when you told us Saturday night that you had just started implementing that, I mean, that's what's crazy to me. I mean, the details matter. Coaching matters. And for y'all to have seen that, and then for it to be as vital as it was, I mean, that it's just insane. Are there any other stories?
You can tell we took time from our ball security period to work on it. So
that's right. Maybe lean back a little bit more there. But has there been anything quite, maybe not game winning type thing, but anything like that you've seen previously in all your years of coaching where you're like, hey guys, I think this can really help us, whatever that is, and then it just flourishes the way that did?
Man, I mean, a couple, but not really. I mean, it falls right up there in line with like the kick six and the way we called timeout and talked through that deal, and it unfolded. And so, it was gritty and it was resilient by our guys, the way in that fourth quarter we just kept making plays in situations that I'm sure the percentage on the screen said 1% chance to win. The unfortunate thing is, after looking back at the game, and I know I said after the game, we probably didn't deserve to win. It's trying to honor the fact that Duke played really hard, and for them, you're right now going, man, we deserve to win. And they did. They played hard, but looking back at it, we deserved to win. We did give up 3 touchdown drives that we're not happy with. Other than that, we played really good defense. We definitely played good defense when it mattered. 6 turnovers, no points. But offensively, we executed our game plan exactly how we wanted to, minus the 6 turnovers, which when you say 6 turnovers, it just, no one sees anything else. And granted, we should have lost because of that. But that was the number 1 team in the country in TFLs. They had 2.
Right.
That was the number 1 team in our league in sacks. They had 0. That was a number 1 team against the pass. We threw for 260. It was the best team in third down defense at low 20 percentage. We were 50% on third down. We were we ran for over 200 yards. We did everything we wanted to do in that game, but the turnovers just completely kept us from playing the way, on the scoreboard we needed to.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where even for us in the moment, I mean, we're not making calls or dialing anything up, but we're still there and we're live and feeling all that emotion. And you're right. I mean, it's all you think about is, oh my goodness, here's another turnover. And then once you kind of go back and watch the tape, you're like, man, these guys are executing at a really high level. I mean, they're running the ball for 220, throwing it wherever they want. But like you said, it just came down to those interceptions. I do want to just touch on that for a second, because it's historic. Where was your mindset? Where was De'Eric's? How do you like talk to your guy? Because again, having never been a coach, I'm seeing, hey, this happens. Do you get somebody else in? Are you yelling at them? Are you comforting them? Are you saying, let's keep going? So for you guys, what was that like when the ball just kept, going the wrong way?
Yeah. Rarely in a game do I believe in just absolutely destroying the quarterback. Yeah. Because it's happened. You got to rally him to come back to it. And no, we didn't consider making any change. I mean, he's our guy and has played really well and valued the ball really well. The thing that's the most unacceptable is the ball being on the ground the way it was. The first one was a mesh issue. That can't happen. But then every other one was running, and with the ball being loose and getting tackled, and it coming, because it came out other times and we got it back. And so that's unacceptable. The first pick before half, trying to be aggressive with 20-something seconds left, try to throw a beater down the middle, don't get enough air under it, and if our receiver had gotten a clean release outside, probably where the ball should have gone. Not great. Okay. There was one late that the third one that was really bad late that almost, cost us. Again, same thing. I got a defender run underneath. We don't put enough air on the ball over the top. The one that was really bad was the one, he almost got hurt on scrambling and throwing all the way back across the field. I mean, those are just things you can't do. And so, that's part of your development as a quarterback. You make so many plays when things break down and he extends them that, I don't want to say you live by the sword, die by the sword. You want to live by the sword and be smart with the sword. And so I think that he'll learn from it. Look, nobody was more disappointed than Kev. It was just off. And, everyone's entitled to an off day or off night. Fortunately for us, his teammates picked him up. Well, we got to be able to hold the ball. We got to hold the ball tighter to our body. We got to have our elbow up higher. We've got to just hold at some point, people have all this stuff in ball security. It's you're running with the ball. Don't let go of the ball. It's the ball. You got to squeeze it tight. And at some point, all the fundamentals matter, but also you got to squeeze the ball. And
no doubt.
We got to be better there.
Yeah. And KG, to have all that happen, to learn all these lessons in a win, Kelly, is the most important thing. That's the most important thing.
That's the way you want it to happen. If your guy like Kevin, who's just been phenomenal for you all year, has an off day, your teammates pick him up. We're going to get a little bit into this massive matchup that we have this Saturday in Dallas, Pitt, SMU, top 20 matchup. But Mac brought up D'Eriq King, and I've been wanting to ask you about this coach because ACC fans know him. I mean, people who watch and listen to our pod, very familiar with D'Eriq King. And I saw he was on a 30 under 30 list. He's your quarterback's coach. He played for you at Miami. What kind of role has he had in the maturation and growth of Kevin Jennings? And what kind of role will he have after a game like that where KJ just kind of has to learn from it and move on?
Yeah, he's been great because, they actually have similar demeanors. They're very calm. They're very consistent. When bad things happen, even if inside they're all torn up, you don't really see it. And when they make big time plays, they get a little bit of juice, but they're like, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. And so, I think he's been great just because he's very relatable. D'Eriq can communicate with Kevin in a way that has a lot of authority because he's just been where Kevin's been. Kevin grew up watching him play college football. You know what I mean? And so did our other guys. And then I think definitely after a game where you don't play well, you're disappointed. Having the ability to both clear it mentally and not have any, bad thought residue like some of us have from it, but at the same time learn from it and not let it happen again. I think he's going to be really valuable. And just again, because the hardest thing you don't want to make someone really nervous and kind of so scared to not turn it over that then they stop being a playmaker, but at the same time you can't do that. And so I think he'll be really good in just being able to communicate from past experiences he's had in a way that Kevin will relate to it.
Yeah. I think we can directly relate to what you're talking about there of scaring a guy out of being the playmaker. I mean, we've heard that around the country right now. Guys that maybe were a little loosey-goosey, but that's who they are, and they're going to try to fit in tight windows that now coaches are like, hey, we got to get back to taking risks. So it's that back and forth, and mentally, I couldn't imagine where that is and how you kind of react to that.
Well, I think you want to remind him of. Let's remind him of what is the majority of his time. We've seen him go 4 or 5 games now and make a lot of plays and not put the ball at risk.
Exactly.
Then to turn around and do what he did, to me, that's the exception, not the rule. Let's fall on that. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again. We touched the hot stove. Let's not do that again. Right. And I think he'll bounce back fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. You got great people around him. Before we move on to Pitt, looking at your defense really quick, because you did bring it up, and they were put in tough spots. They were put in really tough spots, but they never folded, man. They stood up strong. They really did a great job. I remember in the post-game speech, you were rattling off the situations, and no points were given up after any turnover there. Very impressive by them. But what does that say to the rest of the team? What does that say to the rest of the country about the SMU defense?
I just think we're resilient, we're gritty, we're tough, because what is true is now we were up 21-7 and gave them a long drive in the third quarter to make it 21-13, and then gave them another drive in the fourth quarter to tie it up at 21-21. So our defense had just given up back-to-back touchdown drives So they were reeling a little bit. And then the next thing you know, they're put in all those tough situations when, we turned the ball over 3 times inside the last 10 minutes on our own side of the field. And they held them to a long field goal they missed. They held them to not even let them get in range when they probably needed about 5 to 10 yards to be in range. They block a field goal. They stop the 2-point play. Like, I just think our guys have a lot of confidence, a lot of belief. And I think our staff and our players, we got an experienced group. A lot of the guys here were here last year when we won 11 games. And, the guys that are playing for us that were on the team last year, 18-4 in their last 22 games. So they're used to winning. They're used to finding ways to win. And I think, this, Eric, once you played and you won enough, it kind of becomes a cultural habit to where you expect it. And when things aren't going well, you still assume, well, we're going to find a way to win. And I think our defense played that way late in the game.
It did. And I don't think people are giving you guys enough credit for these 3 straight road wins, literally all over the country. What, 2 different time zones, but counting your own, 3 different time zones because you got to go back to Dallas. So just crazy what you guys have done. And now 3 out of your 4 games left at home. So let's get to that Pittsburgh game. The ACC huddle, who else could you want, is going to be there. Mac is already excited. He's going to have like 17 Texas Twinkies, he told me. He'll be fine. It's no big deal. I saw the student section already sold out. The game, I believe, already sold out. It's a night game. It's going to be a really exciting time, Coach. How do you, yes, you've matured and grown so much through these road wins. How do you kind of level your team, right? Like maybe not let the excitement get to be too much, or do you just embrace it? Am I making too much of that?
Either, we're going to try to be who we are. We're going to chase our standard. This game's going to be all about toughness. To your point, we've played back-to-back weeks where we've taken a red eye home after the game, gotten him at 5:30 a.m.
From both oceans.
Our opponent last week got to play on a Friday night. We red-eyed back Sunday morning at 5:30, then went to their place.
Oof.
Our opponent this week got to play on a Thursday night. We red-eyed back. It is what it is. We also, to your point, get 3 of our last 4 games at home. So everybody's schedule have those ebbs and flows. We're beat up. We lost a bunch of guys the other night in the game. And so we'll see who's available this week. We got a lot of guys that are questionable or some that are doubtful. And we do have an off week after it, so it's like, how do we get ourselves ready to go and do a good job as a staff, having them prepared, getting enough work in, but having them as fresh as we can Saturday night so we can go out and compete against a really physical, tough Pitt team. So, look, I don't know how we'll play. I don't know what the outcome will be. But I do know this, our team has proven to me that they're tough, they're physical, and they're going to play extremely hard. So I don't doubt any of those things.
Yeah, we can't wait to see it. Last one for you, Coach. Grateful for your time. This Pitt team, man, just big picture. I know it's Monday. There's a lot of film that's going to go into this thing. But they're aggressive. They like to play man. They like to blitz. Blitz is base, for them. In all your history and everything, when you play a team like that, what is kind of mentality-wise for you? Is it getting the ball out quick? Is it, what does a quarterback have to really pay attention to when a team does that?
Yeah, the thing is their scheme, the way it is, to your point of all the tight coverage, they don't give you a lot of quick, easy stuff. Mm-hmm. And got to go against Pat twice at Miami and have so much respect for him and Bates and what they do. And then, it's the same. It's similar to last week in that you can't be, live in a tackle for loss world. The top 2 run defenses in our conference are going at it, and that's their whole mindset is they don't let you run the ball. They're going to make you one-dimensional. They don't care if you throw for 400, you're not going to run it. And so we have to stay balanced enough, though, to where it doesn't become a feeding frenzy in the pass game when they pin their ears back and do all their blitz. And so, when they blitz, you have a chance to get it out a little quicker. But, 60% of the time they're not blitzing. They're just suffocating you with their quotes, their steel wall, they like to call it. And you got to make some big plays. So you got to some degree, you got to fight aggression with aggression. You can't call the game and play the game tentative at the same time. You can't be careless, and that's just a really fine line. And it's a real challenge for our offense. And then when you couple the fact that they now play offense like we do, their tempo, they're playing fast, they're getting it all over the place, they stretch the field, puts a lot of stress on our defense.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we can't wait to watch it, man. Thank you so much. Great to see you, and we'll see you in a couple days.
Appreciate y'all. Love the show.
Did you know Ingles only sells USDA choice and prime cuts of meat? Maybe it's time to reward yourself. Our butchers cut all our meat fresh in the store every day, Grass-fed, organic, you name it. Not only that, we'll even cut it to order just the way you like it. And we grind meat fresh in the store multiple times a day. It's all in the bag. That's the best meat in town for the best folks in town. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
All right, KG, I have been waiting for this part of the interview. I've been waiting months to get this happening. Really, we've got the two Bills. We got Bill and Billy. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's since I did your episode way back in the summer, your podcast, I've been waiting and excited to get you guys on. It just feels like this is the moment because it's homecoming. It's a ranked matchup at Ford, Stadium there, and excited to be back in Dallas. So we're going to be there. So, gentlemen, great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate the invite, Mac. I mean, this is great. This is the big time. This is what we were kind of stuff we were hoping for when we got into the ACC. So,
That's right.
really exciting stuff. By the way, I just want to say right out of the box, the ACC huddle is our good luck charm. It's our good luck charm.
Come on.
What you've been to 3 games now, right? You came.
That's right.
You went to the Stanford game. You went to the Duke game and the Florida State game, and now you're coming back for the Pitt game.
We've never seen you lose.
Let's keep this ball rolling.
That's right.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. This is awesome.
It's going to be fun. Well, let's just kind of start last weekend, a couple of days ago. And Bill, I'll start with you because I saw you pacing the sideline the entire game. And I know that's what you do. I know that's you try to get different vantage points, but we've never seen anything like that ever. And SMU found a way to win. So, Bill, what was going through your mind? And then, Billy, I want to hear your thoughts right after.
Well, first of all, I think I put in like 19,000 steps on the sidelines during the game because my wife always knows. My wife will sit up in the press box and watch me, and she goes, "Oh man, he's doing that pacing again. That means he's getting nervous." So it was a very, very kind of a strange atmosphere. And Mac, you can relate to the Stanford atmosphere, which was just like dead quiet. It was weird. It was weird. But we go into Duke, and there was kind of like not a lot of excitement on our side of the ball. I was kind of surprised by that a little bit because here we are at Duke. They're 6-1. They're 6-1. Yeah, and we're 6-1. And I was expecting more of just a rah kind of upbeat deal, and we kind of came out. I don't want to say flat. And I don't want to say that we were looking past Duke to Pitt because I don't know. I mean, Rhett's coach teams rarely are that way. And then it just went on like this kind of like Twilight Zone episode where we get to the red zone 3 times. We fumble 3 times. I mean, luckily we recovered 2 of those 3. And then our phenom quarterback, Kevin Jennings, KJ, has been pretty mistake-free up to this point. And oh my, I mean, he's been flying so close to the sun. I think his wings melted because he came crashing down to earth. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions. He had 2 fumbles that they recovered. He had 2 more fumbles that weren't recovered. And he is normally, I call him the smiling assassin or the silent assassin because he is so calm. And it was one of those games where it's not Butterfingers because, as you know, a Manny Diaz team comes with strong defense. I mean, Rhett told me before the game, he said, "Bill, here's the way the game's going to go. Manny's going to come after the ball on every single play. They're going to play really tough on defense and pass defense. We're going to be able to hold them on offense, but we won't get many touches because Manny runs the clock out. When he gets that play clock down to like 3 seconds on every single play, it's kind of bizarre watching it, because they're sitting out there and just kind of standing around waiting for the play clock to click down. And it just has a different kind of a pace to it. And frankly, I thought, especially in the second half, so we should have finished up 17-7 at the end of the first half, but we had that turnover late by our replacement tight end. And then we started off right away, and it got down to the 1-yard line on that big play. And I got to give it up to Duke. I mean, they stuffed us on 4 1-yard runs in a row.
Right. Yeah.
And I can sit around all day long and complain about the play calling on that one. But I mean, you got to give it to Duke's defense on that, because they stuffed us. That was a shock. I was sitting there thinking, we're going to go up 21-7 and we're just going to roll.
Right.
And then sure enough, we didn't. And then the game gets into the fourth quarter, and it was almost like we were on purpose trying to like give the game away. I mean, it was just like every single time we would fumble or throw an interception. I mean, I was on the sidelines talking to the team, and we're all sitting there with our mouths hanging open, like, what is now happening? And our defense, you got to give them credit. Of all those 6 turnovers, they did not score a point off of those 6 turnovers, which I think is maybe more rare, I think, than the fact that a team that was out turnover 6-0 won. An incredibly improbable win. I think there's only been like one time in the history of college football.
In the history of ever. Only one other one.
Only one. So you think on a pure statistical basis, if that was a Vegas odds thing, you would say you have a 99.5% chance of losing. And then to see that kick, the block kick at the end, I mean, Jafari, I didn't realize that he was half kangaroo. He just leaped left. I mean, he just right over their center. And if you look at it on replay, I mean, his knees almost touch his chest. Yeah. I mean, it was just like, Are you kidding? And he is a big boy. I mean, you were talking about that was an incredibly athletic move. And then he landed on his feet, and then he jumped again. And that kick was going in. That was a really good kick. I felt sorry for that kicker. You know, you always have, like, who do I feel bad for? I feel worse for KJ, who had a horrible game. I mean, I think KJ had an 11 quarterback rating, which I'm not positive I've ever seen a quarterback rating quite that low. And, of course, after the game, he's such a sweet kid. I mean, he was literally like tears coming down his face because, you know, he felt like he had let the team down. That's just kind of the guy he is. And then that poor kicker for Duke, you know, he had missed an extra point. He had missed a reasonably short field goal at, like, I think it was 40 yards or 35 yards or something. And then that block field goal, I felt for him. And I think Manny probably. Do you think Manny goes for 2 in the overtime if his kicker had been good all game?
No.
I wouldn't.
No
Mac
shot.
and I had that debate on Monday's episode, especially because you're at home and you get the ball back after that situation. So it was crazy. It was a classic college football game, right? The different things that we see in college football. And Billy, for you, I mean, you've been covering this team. You guys do a great podcast, and I know SMU fans are very in tune with what y'all have been saying. You've already covered this game for sure. But just for you, Billy, like that Duke game, I think people are forgetting this is 3 straight road wins for SMU all over the country. Like, that's not an exaggeration. I think you saw some fatigue. You saw some injuries. You saw all that. Billy, you've covered this team. Did you think this team would go 3-0 on this stretch that we just saw? Because I didn't, honestly.
Well, after they got by TCU and Florida State, it was a totally different team. And I did think they were going to go 3-0. Mm-hmm. I didn't think, looking at Duke, that they would be, you know, the best team. And I think Louisville would beat Duke, but still just like a really, really good football team that they've turned out to be, especially defensively. I just felt like this team has an ability to pick each other up and make plays when others aren't. And we've seen that throughout the year. They've faced a lot of injuries over the last couple of weeks, losing RJ Maryland at Stanford. And now for the year, you mentioned the injuries against Duke with guys like Justin Osborne going down at right guard. Jake Bailey left the game right before the first half and didn't return. You had a bunch of guys just playing through things. And that's where a lot of teams are at this point. But for SMU, they've just found a way to, like Bill said, with the 0 points off turnovers for SMU's defense. That is a incredible stat. And I think it speaks to the veteran play around this entire team. 26 seniors, I believe. And so they've kind of seen it all. And I think they got a good taste overall of how hard it is to grind through a conference slate last year when they, won the AAC. And they experienced some of the lows. They had a bad game against Rice, but won. But this year was obviously the big step up. And they went out and addressed the defensive line in the transfer portal. They really feel like they're 2 to 3 deep in that spot. And you saw that. You saw guys like a Cam Robertson getting a sack of Malik Murphy and knocking them out of field goal range, I believe, on that drive that they pushed them back that far. And then you have other guys that are just rotating in and making plays on defense. Jafari splits time with Isaiah Smith as a pass rusher. Cam Robertson splits time with Elijah Roberts. Ahmad Moses was flying around. Isaiah Wakobe was flying around from the safety position. This was a weird game overall for SMU. I mean, their pass defense hasn't been lights out. It's probably, at the corner position a weakness, but I didn't necessarily think Malik Murphy would throw for, did he get to 300 yards?
Right under. He was right under. It was his best game, though, by far. It was his best game.
He threw some beautiful balls, and credit to Johnny Brewer, former SMU assistant, now there as offense coordinator.
That's right.
Dialing up some good play calls. But I was very, very surprised by the amount of turnovers by Kevin. And I think he was trying to do too much. And that's where it stemmed from. The offense moved fairly well, over 200 yards on the ground, 250 through the air, but you can't do that. And so he'll correct that. I'm pretty confident we won't see a game like that from him again, just the way he's been playing for the most part. But, I think this team is finding itself. And that's the thing about SMU, that for the last year and a half, especially under Rhett Lashlee, they've found themselves as the year has gone on. They've gotten better as the year has gone on. They finished strong his first year and made a bowl game. They finished strong and won the AAC. And then this year, they lost to BYU. They were finding themselves offensively. And until Duke, they had found themselves offensively. The defense has been stellar all year. I still think they're some of their best ball might very well be ahead of them.
Right. And I don't think that's crazy by any stretch of the imagination. And, but you have these one-off games, but to learn all of these lessons, to have your wings burned off, as Bill, as you said, and still win, I mean, that is so important. That's such a big deal. And they found a way. They found a way. And now they're sitting, at 7-1, ranked top 20 in the country, and have a massive game coming up this weekend. And Billy, I hate, I don't want to put, all our chips in one basket, but this is a big game. Is this one of the biggest games ever that have occurred, for SMU at home here?
Yeah, I think since the new stadium, for sure. And just what this means now, because, you look back on the TCU and Florida State games earlier this year, those meant a lot for two very different reasons. Now this is your biggest conference game by far for SMU at Ford Stadium that I've been around for. You have games in the past, SMU against Texas in the 80s, and that were big games and things like that. But when you look at SMU at Ford Stadium, this is the biggest game to date. And if they get by it, the next game against BC is going to be the biggest game in a sense, because you're in an ACC championship, battle. You're undefeated. You have everything ahead of you, potentially, depending on how the tiebreaker works out. But they can win out. They can do this, and if they play up to their standard. And I think that's the thing, that for this stadium, it's going to be rocking. It's homecoming. I don't think it's necessarily going to be like Florida State traveled pretty well, but it was still a good SMU crowd. This is a game where after a month off, people are coming back, not only for homecoming, but now they're making the plans around the game too. 7 o'clock with homecoming and undefeated Pitt team. I mean, this is what you signed up for when you got in the ACC and you hoped for. People are just gravitating towards this team, even after what was, a tough Duke game. They're, at the end of the day, like you said, 7-1, and got an opportunity to win out and put yourself in position to play for a championship.
Bill, I want to ask you just about the vibe around SMU right now, because, by the way, you guys mentioned the BYU loss. That's looking like a pretty good loss right now, a top 10
quality loss.
BYU.
That's what they call it in the SEC, quality losses.
Yeah, Mac, either, lost to BYU, lost to Northern Illinois, same thing, right? But still a very good loss for SMU. But Bill, I know you're a proud SMU guy. You were there during the heyday, right? It's when you were a student. So, I mean, you've seen it. I mean, you know what SMU can be. how does it feel to say, okay, sell out coming out for this game this weekend? What have you heard from people around SMU? Like just the support that's coming back to this program. Can you dive into that more for us, Bill?
Oh, I'm happy to. And by the way, the BYU loss when we had it, it didn't feel like a quality loss. I just gotta say.
Oh, I know that game was
we
ugly.
we were just like, are you kidding me? We just lost to BYU by 3.
Yeah.
We didn't play very good, and da 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 da. Anyway, but it's now. I mean, had we beaten BYU, we would be banging on the top 10. There would be 3 ACC teams banging on the top 10: Clemson, Miami, and us. So, and that was a 3-point game, and it was just, we missed a field goal late in the game, and it's just one of those things that happened to. But as far as the Mustang Nation, it's hard to describe how excited we were to get into the ACC. Getting us out of the group of 5 and into what was then the P5, and has since become the P4. And because I feel so poorly about the Big 12, it's actually the P3. So
Mac and I would agree with you, but yes.
We're not going to get into that. By the way, do we call the ACC the All Coast Conference now? I mean, I don't
That's
even.
That's right. You should token that. Somebody needs to buy that.
So, but let me just give you a kind of a indirect indication of how big the game is. So we have the biggest suite, I think, in the stadium. It's right on the end zone, right behind the goalposts. And we typically, my wife and I are like filling the seats. Yeah. We have a list so long of guests that are calling us up and saying, I need tickets. Can I get into your suite? And we're just like, we're calling in chips with, the athletic director and the head of the development. And we're just like, we just need more, because our box is going to be Bryson DeChambeau is going to be there again. Eric Dickerson is going to be there again. Craig James is going to be there. I'm hoping Lance McElhaney will, and then not to
W?
miss it.
Is he back?
Well, W will probably be at the game, but he sits with the president of.
I assume he has his own suite.
Of the university, even though I think he would probably prefer to hang with me just because I'm so irreverent. But I don't tell my the president of SMU that. But anyway, the stadium is going to be packed. Our students are learning how to be good fans. Trust me, we went 40 years through the desert. I mean, everybody always laughs about why do you guys always bring up the death penalty? There was only one school in the history of college sports that ever got the death penalty, and it was SMU, who just invented NIL 30 years before it was
That's
invented.
Right.
Is all. So, but I mean, Mac, you went to the Boulevard last for the Florida State game. I invite you to come back and we'll do the Boulevard Walk again on Saturday, because everybody loves the nighttime game. And the Boulevard Walk you did was just to look at the food. Now you got to walk the Boulevard and see the crowd and see the excitement and see the students. I mean, it is just going to be, because I think our tailgating experience may be second to none in all of college sports, because it's compact. It's compact. Yeah. And, when it's just down this one boulevard and it's just wall to wall tents and big screen TVs and music. And then of course you didn't get into the student tents, and that's just obscene. Everybody's trying to outcompete one another for, because we still have a big fraternity sorority scene at SMU. So it's like everybody's trying to outdo everybody else, and it just makes for just really, really fun stuff. So I can't overestimate the importance of this game. I think it's freaking everybody out that we're all of a sudden 7-1. Wouldn't you say, Billy? I mean, yeah. But before the season started, I think I said if everything works out perfectly, we go 9-3. I think you were saying 8-4. I can't remember exactly, but anyway. But hey, Mac, when I first met you at the ACC Media Day, we were leaving with Rhett in a car, and we go by one of these drive-through hamburger stands, and they were asked like, "Where are you from?" And we're like going, "Hey, we're from SMU." And Rhett says, "See you December 7th." And we were all laughing. Like, yeah, he said, "See you December," because it's in Charlotte. That's where the ACC championship game. And he was just mouthing off. And I didn't even know what December 7th was. I was like, isn't that Pearl Harbor Day? Wasn't that December 7th? So, I'm just saying, we got to catch a break between now and the end. We got to run the table if we can. I think if we get by Pitt, Which, by the way, let me describe to you the Pitt game for all of us old timers.
Yeah.
One of the biggest games in SMU's history was the 1983 Cotton Bowl game, and it was SMU versus Pitt.
Mm.
And SMU had the Pony Express. We had Eric Dickerson, Craig James, and Lance McElhaney in the backfield. And Pitt had Dan Marino. And it was like these two vaunted offenses going against each other in the Cotton Bowl. I think we were rated 4th in the country, and I think Pitt was 6th.
Wow.
I think preseason they were actually rated 1st. Penn State ultimately ended up winning the national championship that year. But these two vaunted offenses in the Cotton Bowl, and the final score was 7-3.
Wow.
It was just one of those games, and we still talk about it. It was crazy. It was so cold. It was like sleeting and nasty. But anyway, we talk about that game. We've had to live off that game for the last 42 years. So finally, we're back, and we have missed out, guys, on 40 years of fun, and we are making up for it now.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, we can't wait to be there, man. It's going to be so much fun, as you said. The environment, the scene, and the game is going to be unbelievable. Boys, appreciate you joining us. This is everything I hoped it would be. Thank y'all so much.
All right. Thanks again, Coach Rhett Lashlee, Bill Armstrong, Billy Embody, who joined us here on the show. We appreciate those guys. Pretty much, if you need to know anything about SMU, those are kind of the three to talk to. So we had them all on the show, Mac. And like you said, I'm very excited for this game this weekend. I think it's massive on so many levels. I also loved Bill Armstrong brought up, this is a rematch, if you will. I mean, not really, but kind of the 1983 Cotton Bowl that SMU won 7-3 over Dan Marino in Pittsburgh. So I'm sure some of the SMU fans who were really involved during the glory days, the Eric Dickerson days, remember that game very, very fondly. And now you're playing Pitt. Again, it's pretty cool to have that kind of come full circle, Mac. And we're going to be talking Pitt on Wednesday. Tell them what to expect.
Well, I'm excited for this. Sorry, I was listening, or I was doing something. I wasn't listening. I do want to touch on the 83 game. It's kind of like Top Gun. Like, you got to wait 20, 30, 40 years for the sequel. Now the sequel's here. It's finally here. It's coming back, doing its thing. So I can't wait. It's going to be such a massive game. But yeah, as you're correct, let me hide my Dallas shirt. Talking to the Pittsburgh fans now. What's up? I got my blue on. We got my Pitt blue on. We'll be talking to Desmond Reed. Yeah, it looks the exact same. We'll be talking to Desmond Reed tomorrow, which is going to be so much fun. Absolute superstar. That guy has been a ton of fun wearing a Pitt jersey and doing his thing. So we'll have that, plus a little bit more of a breakdown of the game. We talked way too much in this episode. We got to get out and go on to tomorrow. But we'll have more for you. So SMU fans, you come back to – you can fast forward if you want or hear what Desmond has to say. It's going to be a big-time episode. So we appreciate you guys so much. More to come tomorrow, more to come Friday. There's going to be a lot going on. So we always thankful for your support. Go over to YouTube, subscribe, jump in the comments section. This one could be loaded up. I want to see what we have to say here, especially some ponies. And of course, over on SiriusXM and Apple Podcasts as well. We appreciate you guys' support there. But until next time, we'll see y'all.